to get that particular movie made. But to answer your question, first of all, Amistad was a studio movie. It was not independently financed. Studio bankrolled the movie and paid for all the advertising and all that. And that means, of course, that they were involved in the creative development process as well. But I'm just tell you, Birth of a Nation had a budget of $8 million. And if you see the film, it's a lot of movie for $8 million. But there are no big names in the cast. There are wonderful actors in the cast. Probably the biggest name in the cast is somebody who never has a line, which is Gabrielle Union, who doesn't have a line in the movie, but begged to be in the movie. And left her show, being Mary Jane, to come to Savannah, where we were shooting, to do those 2 days for her scene. Wow. But that, you know, that's a whole other story. That movie was the best experience I ever had in my life. Nate Parker is a brilliant filmmaker and an absolutely wonderful human being. And I just, you know, am crushed that what was done in his film was done. But the film lives no matter what. And the film will survive in spite of all that. And people will see it.
Now, Nate Parker, his story is just so sad that drama was sort of drowned out by his infidelity. He had raped a woman.
Listen, I don't even want to rehash all of that, but as Steve pointed out, only thing I need to say about that is that he was completely exonerated 20 years ago. Now, having said that, Manchester by the Sea, Casey Affleck has sexual assault charges against him, which nobody ever heard about during the campaign for that movie, and for him for Best Actor Oscar. What's the difference? So, but that's, you know, listen, you know, it is what it is. I accept that's the reality. What I have difficulty with is another thing Steve mentioned. We drank the Kool-Aid. When they started saying this, none of us questioned it. We just said, okay, I'm not going. What?
Oh, yeah. But you know now, and the thing that August wrote, I'll never forget it, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, say, long as the color, this is a play set in 1920, that's why he said colored man. But as long as the colored man looked to the white man to put the crown on what he say, as long as he looked to the white man for approval, he ain't never gonna know who he is or what he's about. Now, if you will listen to the white press or anything like that, tell you about your culture, about a project, you can go see with your eyes, see the thing, and then make your choice about it. But to have boycotted and for organizations, black organizations, to tell people to not go see it, you know, you got to be careful. You have to watch as well as pray.
Questions?
Okay, I'm not from class 67, but of course I've known Steve a long time and worked with him from the other side of the Black Repertory Theater in St. Louis. And the wonderful thing that I think Steve does, wherever he is reaches out to some of the folks, wherever there's some of the people, he's going to find them. And I wanted to talk, though, about the evolution of your play where you won the Obie Award. I'm looking in the New York Times one Saturday, and there's a picture of Steve on Broadway in his production in New York and saying how you won the Obie Award, the play won the Pulitzer. And I learned that it was written for him. So tell us about that, because the people, I don't think, understand that process.
Well, this goes back. There's a company in New York called the Labyrinth Company, and they spell it with capital L, capital A, capital B, and then the rest of the word, because LAB stands for Latin Actor Based. They started this company because they had a show on Broadway that was all about the Latin culture, and they didn't hire any Latin actors for it. They said they auditioned, they said they just wasn't able to. And so the Latin actors that were refused to work there started a company, but they didn't want to do what was done to them, so they made sure that it was Latin actor based, but they let African American and white actors and so on and so forth in. One of the white actors that was a part of the founding company is a dude named Philip Seymour Hoffman. Now, Philip Seymour Hoffman, one of the great actors, and he is from, happened to be from Rochester, New York. And then there was brother Ron Cephas Jones. Y'all see him in This Is Us, right? Right, the grandfather there, Ron Cephas. So these are all members of that company. They did a play by this playwright, Stephen Adler Gerges, wrote a play called The Last Days of Judas Iscariot, about how Judas needed to forgive himself for what he did, and Jesus was in it and all that thing. And I played Pontius Pilate in this show, off-Broadway. And Philip Seymour directed it, and Stephen Adler Gerges wrote it. Then they asked me to become a member of the Labyrinth Company, and I did some stuff and taught some classes for them in the summer and did all this and hung around with these guys. And when I was walking with a cane, Pam, you remember this, they brought Stephen in the Buffalo to see a production of Last Days of Judas Iscariot, and I went down to have lunch with him, and he saw me walking with a cane because I just had a hip replacement, and I also had been diagnosed with lumbar stenosis. And he said, "What you doing walking with a cane, man?" I said, "Well, man, I got just a few more dances to do." I said, "But I'm healing from this, you know." And he said, "No, I don't like to see that." He said, "Because I got 2 plays. One, I want to write for a supporting role for you on Broadway so you can get that. But I got an off-Broadway show that you're the lead in." And I said, "Well, man, you had to write your plays fast if you write them." I've been doing this a while. And I thought that would be the end of it. And within 6 months, he called and said, "Come on in, we're going to read about 15 pages of it." And we read some stuff, and we read some other stuff. He called together. It was Chris Rock and John Leguizamo and all these cats, you know, and we just reading it, testing it out. And within a little while, he finished the play. We did it off-Broadway and moved it from one theater to the next. And I won an Obie. It was the first lead role I had in a play in New York, because as I always say, I was trying to be an actor, so I would, you know, they say I'd go for the part that I thought I could get cast in. And I was a character man. I mean, that was just what I was. I was a character actor. But so he wrote a character lead. I got that Obie, and then that play won the Pulitzer. And they never went to Broadway. They still threatened about doing it. You know, it's in the hands of Scott Rudin and whatever, you know, got it. And so, you know, he always got 6 presidents. Yeah, he was part of the defense. But so that's how that. Yeah.
Scott Rudin, by the way, is infamous in Hollywood.
Oh, of course.
He's one of the most powerful producers in town, and also one of the most horrible individuals.
Oh man. And see, it's a curse when somebody that's known for that is in your corner. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, but that's a story about it. Between Riverside and Crazy was the name of that play. Between Riverside and Crazy.
Question?
Yeah, I have a question for Preston. You and I communicated last year. You told me about a movie you're doing called The Story of Nat Turner. What's the status of that?
Oh, no, that's Birth of a Nation.
Birth of a Nation.
But you haven't seen that. Birth of a Nation is the Nat Turner story.
I got the bootleg.
Just came out.
I know that's
For clarification, I need information. It is said that if you don't get to a movie in its opening weekend, its first weekend, that it is not counted in terms of its
Box office.
success. Is that true? And how
Not
soon do we
exactly.
get to see them?
Not exactly. The point is that the opening weekend is critical in how the studio or the distributor then decides to deal with the film going forward. If the opening weekend is disappointing, doesn't do enough business, you would think that the next step would be to spend more advertising money. The opposite happens. If opening weekend flops, they pull the plug. And they stop spending money, they start taking it out of theaters. And that's why, and another sort of rule of thumb that the distributors use is whatever a movie does on opening weekend, multiply that by 3, and that's probably what it's going to do in its domestic release. So, you know, a lot of times people say, like, Birth of a Nation is a good example because, you know, I always ask people whenever somebody would say, hey, how you doing? I'd say, have you seen Birth of a Nation? And, you know, people would say things like, no, not yet, but I'm going to. And this would be 2 weeks after the movie opens. It's like, well, you about to miss it. And then, you know, I'd ask people, and they say, well, you know, I was going to see it, but it's gone. Yeah, that's what happens.
Thank you. So the DVD sales?
DVD sales are money, but it's not money that's going to help in terms of the theatrical release numbers. Yeah, yeah. It all helps, but the key is the theatrical release. And that, by the way, determines the filmmaker's ability to get the next movie done.
I have a question for each of them. One's for Steve. You talk a lot about acting and craft, and tell us a little bit about what you mean when you say truth in the acting role.
Well, you know, that's what. See, yeah,
This is going to become an acting class.
no. You know what? It's not going to be there. There ain't going to be no acting teacher. But primarily, it's not something that is happening inside. It's an I and thou. You know, there's I-it relationships and the I-you relationships, but I and thou relationships create truth. So, you know, it really is about me respecting the other. You know, it gets way philosophical with me about don't get it right, get it true. See, that's the thing that I teach. Don't get it right, get it true. If you're trying to get something right, you're getting it right according to your head or somebody else's head or somebody else who told you to get it right. Don't get it right, get it true. And it can only be true if it's true between us. It has to do with us respecting and finding a truth within us, between us. So that's the shortest answer. Don't get it right, get it true. Is about making sure that it's your eyes and my eyes and what we come to. And we find the truth of this moment and we move to the truth in the next moment and in the next moment. And but it's not a right thing, it's a truth.
This is for you, Weedy. You talked a little bit about budgeting in film, and that Birth of a Nation was roughly $8 million, I think you said. Help us to understand what happens if they suddenly say, okay, you got $24 million to make this movie instead of $8 million. How does that translate into the final project?
Well, I've never had that happen. It would be nice. You know, look, but to answer your question, you know, what difference does more money make? It obviously depends on the film, but Birth of a Nation, I said it's about $8 million. One of the things that means is that nobody involved, none of the actors involved made very much money, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
They made Screen Actors Guild's minimums scale, which, you know, Steve will tell you, actors only do, you know, if they love the project. But that's, you know, that's one of the differences. You know, if you have more money, then you pay the actors, you know, what their quotes are, which gets into a whole other thing, because actors and their quotes, again, unfortunately, it makes a difference whether we're talking about people of color or not. You know, and said it was the worst thing that ever happened to his career.
Lou
Lou
Gossett.
Gossett. What's that movie he won that Oscar for? After Officer and a Gentleman, he won that award. He said it almost killed his career. Now, you would think the opposite would happen. You'd get more offers, you'd make more money. What happened was people assumed that since he got the Oscar, he was going to want more money. So instead of calling him, they called the next black actor. And it works because nobody said anything. Give you another example of that. In the Iron Man franchise, before Don Cheadle was in it, Terrence Howard had the role Don Cheadle now has. Well, it was extremely successful. Got time to do another one. Terrence Howard's people, as they would do for any other client, say, okay, well, our guy now wants a little more money. And Terrence had also been nominated for an Oscar by that point for another film that I had the pleasure of being involved with, which was called Hustle and Flow. The studio said, the producer said, okay, Terrence, we'll get back to you. Hung up the phone, called Don Cheadle's people. Hired Don Cheadle, and Terrence was SOL.
Question?
I do. First thing, I don't know you personally. I'm